Hey everybody, I have been asked a few times to do a float load, and so I thought I had the float out today and I thought I'd use the big guy Jack just to show you this guy, and even bringing him out towards the float here. I don't know whether you hear him, but he's really nervous, he's pushing me around, he's wanting to not go anywhere near the float. So he's a great example of a horse who's really nervous, and he's a big horse too. He's obviously a Clydesdale. Back up, mate. Clydesdale, so he has a lot of weight behind him, and he does tend to, he's had a little bit of training with me, but no float load training at all, and I haven't touched him with the float and since I picked him up. And when I picked him up, it took a long time to load. He was very nervous, and I've only done ground skills and ridden work with him since, and only a little tiny bit of it, so I haven't done anything with the float. So he's a really good horse to use as an example of a horse that's very, very nervous around floats. He was quite sweaty when we travelled him, and that was only a short distance. So there's a few things that we want to look at. Now, when we're working with nervous horses that want to move their feet a lot, so he is an extrovert, so he likes to move around, and he's very loud when he's bothered by something. That is, he moves around, he throws his head, and he's very he makes sure you know that you know that he is scared. So he's not a freezer. He doesn't freeze when he gets scared, he runs. So he's a great example of what to do with a horse that's really nervous. So I'm just going to let the video play here, and I'll do I won't talk as I'm doing the loading, but I will do a voiceover when I load the video so that you guys can see. I'll talk you through exactly what I'm doing, and I'm just going to play this by ear. So whatever happens, happens, and I'll just deal with it at the time. So again, remember, he's extremely nervous. He's not bullyish. He's not being pig-headed and saying, I'm not doing that. He's actually just going, this is really scary, and I'm too scared to go in there. So I'm working with that personality. If I was working with a horse that's just not too scared, but just like, yeah, nah, I'm not going on there, I'd do things quite differently. So I do use a whip, and you'll see, for those of you that go, oh, I don't want to whip my horse, I'm not whipping him with it. What I'm doing is it's a training tool for coming forward. Horses are very long in their bodies, we are very upright. So if I'm going to touch him to ask him to come forward behind the drive line, I need a long whip. My hand can't reach without stepping back there. When you're working with a float, I like to have a horse self-load. I don't walk them in. There are some horses that walk in great, and in that case then we just go ahead and do it. But if I've got a horse that's very nervous, I like to teach them to self-load. So I don't go into the float, because if I'm by myself, I don't want to, as soon as I step out of the front of the float with a nervous horse, they're just going to back out anyway. So I'm standing on the tailgate the whole time and getting the horse to go in and out from there. Now, a couple of things. I'm using a very long rope because he's a runner, all right? So at any time when he wants to get out of there, he can spin around and take off, and I need this long rope so I've got some slide and an ability to slow him down before I lose him. So I am using a long rope as a precaution with him. Don't use your standard 6-foot lead rope, because if you've got a bothered horse, because they need a little bit of space to back out of their fear, to gather themselves and then come back in. So I'm not going to lock him in when he goes in, and that's really, really important. One of the things I hear and see people do all the time is, once he's in, it's like, quick, lock him in. That's the last thing you should be doing. When I have a nervous horse, I want them to know that at any time they're worried, they can back out until they get confident. Again, until they get confident. I never want to lock a horse in a cage on wheels when it's unconfident, because it will learn bad habits, it will hurt itself, it will wreck your float, it'll do all sorts of damage. So we want to only lock the horse in with a bum bar once the horse is confident. If they need to come off 50 times, I'll allow that, as long as they're showing me that they're trying once they've come back from that backing off. So I'm going to have a play with him now. You'll see, if you've got any questions, please just pop them at the bottom of the video and I'll answer them as best I can. If you've got any dramas with your horse, feel free to ask on the Eliza Perilla question page, and I'll help you where I can. But welcome to Jack. He's calmed down a whole lot now, but when I walked him out the gate, he's looking at that float, snorting it. Don't let me hear that thing. So he's calmed down because we're standing here, but you'll see as soon as I start to take him to the float, he'll start to get nervous. Now, another thing to take note of is I don't move my feet. So you'll see, the less I do the calmer the horse will become. All right, so we'll just get this out of the way a little bit closer to the fence in case he does want to take off at a rapid pace, and we'll start to take him over and introduce him to the float. Good boy. So he had a little time to relax there while I was talking, and now you can see I'm just going to ask him to come with me towards the float, and you can see his nervousness come straight back again. As soon as I ask him forward, he goes to step backwards and pull on the rope. So I lift the stick and ask him with the whip to come forward. Now, he did that really nicely. So even though he's scared, my forward cue with the whip worked really, really well. But as soon as he stepped forward, I stopped asking. I wait till he relaxes a little and then ask him again. And you can see he's very bobbing his head and very nervous, but he still steps forward. So he gets a big reward. Good boy. And then gently ask again. Now, whenever he's sniffing and checking the float out and looking in the general direction, I'm going to be calm and relaxed and give him time off. So here he's sniffing, checking it out, stepping away. There he goes to step away. That's when I ask him again, just to come forward. You'll notice my feet are very still. I'm not moving. If he backs up, I give him a little bit of rope, but then ask him again. He put his nose on the ramp then, stepped away, so I ask him to step forward. Now he's checking the ramp out really well, reaching in, checking me out. Big reward. Steps away, so I ask him again and release. And there he stepped up onto the ramp with one foot. So I stop, I relax, I get calm, let him step back, think about that. Now he's licking and chewing here. Really good that he's doing that, because it means he's learning the lesson, he's digesting the information. And you can see his feet are nice and still while he's doing that. Nice reward, and ask again. And look at how beautifully he steps up this time, because he understood that he did a good job last time. I step in the float a little bit just to give him more chance to sniff it and check it out. And while he's doing that, I leave him alone. This is what builds his confidence, is being able to check out the space that he's going into is safe and making his own choice to step forward. So here, because he does such a beautiful job of being nice and calm while he's checking it out, that he's nice and still with his feet, I'm actually going to ask him to back off, reward that, give him a pat, and then quickly ask him straight back on again. I don't want to leave him off the float too long to get too comfortable. And look how well he stepped up, straight into the same position. Lots of pats. Good boy. Let him sniff it. Now he stepped up a little close to me this time, so I'm going to ask him to move over a little there. You can see he moved over really nicely. Good boy. Doesn't matter if he backs off now. He moved off my pressure beautifully. As soon as he goes to leave, I just ask him back up again. Good boy. He steps forward again, coming a little close into my space. So I ask him to move over a little. Good. Good man. Lots of reward. Lots of time. Nice and relaxed. No rush. Good. Now I'm just going to ask him to back out a little again. Off the ramp. Good boy. Bit of a time there for a reward. And look what happens. As soon as I step up, he steps up with me. Good boy. And he's even further, but too close, so I bump him on the shoulder. Ask him to go up, but over away from me this time. Good man. Having a bit of a poop there. Now he's not allowed to put his head over there. You can see he's going to start doing that a little bit. And I'm going to start bumping his nose back towards the float. I want that turning around reflex to be uncomfortable. So as soon as that head starts to turn over to his left, I bump him. Now look what happened. Because turning around was uncomfortable, I said, well, how about I come forward? Good boy. And you can see now I have back feet on the ramp. And that's a huge try. So I'll give him lots of time. If he wants to back out, again, I allow it and ask him straight back in. Good boy. Allow the back out. Ask him back in. Good boy. I'm relaxing, rewarding every time he comes forward. Bump that nose away. I don't want him spinning around on me. A little resistance there. I just wait and ask him forward again. Bump him across a little bit further.
Now he stepped over to the right, away from the float. So I make him uncomfortable by tapping him on the side. As soon as he comes forward though, I quit. Now he's crooked, but that's okay. I want to allow him to be okay with stepping forward every single time, no matter whether he's crooked or not. I'll fix the issue that he's crooked in a moment. I want to give him time to know that he doesn't get away with getting away from the float by stepping to one side of it. I make him uncomfortable even though he's over on one side. Now I step him off to straighten him up and straight back on. Exactly the same way as I've done, too close, so I ask him to step over. He stepped over really nicely. Reward, bump his nose, ask him forward again. You can see I'm giving him light touches with that whip to help him just be uncomfortable enough to try to come forward. If they're not uncomfortable enough, they won't try to come forward. Every time he moves forward, I quit. Relax, reward, ask again. If he steps back, I just keep asking. Straighten him up. Ask. And he steps straight in. Really nice load. He just needed a bit of time and he stepped in. Now I'm going to blow his mind by stepping in there and backing him, give him a quick rub while he's in there and asking him to back out straight away. That's the reason they learn to build confidence, is because I'm not locking him in there straight away. And learning to back out is just as important as learning to go in. So I bring him out, give him a lovely big reward. There's a nice lick and chew again. Pick up my whip. And I'm going to back him all the way off and then just straight away ask him to come back in. Nice lick and chew. You can see he's lovely and calm there. So I let him stand on the back of the float, back him up, all the way off. Good boy. Well done. And straight back in. And you can see there he just steps beautifully into the float. Not as far in as last time, but I'm going to deal with that in a second. Lots of rubs. Rub down his butt, getting him ready for that bum bar to go on. Even though I'm not going to put it on, I'm getting him ready for it. I'm going to step forward, give him big rubs, lots of reward up the front. If you backed out at this stage, that's okay, I'll just back out with him. I'm actually asking him here to back out. Good boy, because he did a really nice load. So the shorter I leave him in there, the better he's going to load next time. Now because he did such a really nice job that time, I'm going to give him the ultimate reward of stepping completely away from the float. And here you can see he's going to have a little nibble on the grass. I'm not going to allow that. He'll tap with the whip to say because I don't want him to get too comfortable off that float. I want him to get comfortable inside the float. And here I'll just ask him up and you see he walks straight back in, beautiful and calm. Not quite in, but that's okay. Lots of rubs. I'm going to move the center divider across to check that out to make sure he's okay with that. Lots of rubs down the butt. Good boy, well done. He tried really hard. Give him a rub on the face here. Good man. Now the reason I go in and rub and then come back out again is to check that he stays in there. And he did. So I move the center divider across to check he's okay with that. Again, check his butt. Now I'm going to step forward and see if he can come forward with a gentle ask from the halter. He does exactly that. Good boy. That shows me that he's ready to be, when he's ready to come forward off pressure off the halter, he's ready to lock in there. But because this is just a training session, I'm not going to lock him in. I'm just going to check that he can stay there. If I wanted to have a cup of tea right now, I would. I don't want to lock him in. I want him to build confidence to know he's safe to come out at any time, and because he knows that he doesn't need to. So now we just ask him to back out. If he rushed off, I would put him straight back on again. But because he comes out lovely and calm, we can finish that training session there. He did a really nice job.
All right, that was pretty nice. So he did really well there. He was still, he went in beautifully. And a couple of things to note. is that I've worked with this horse a little bit online because I'm starting him under saddle. And one of my rules, especially for a big horse, is that he doesn't pull on that lead rope. So when I lift, I don't pull to ask him to come forward. I gently ask, and then if he doesn't come to that, I lift the whip and just give him a gentle touch. And you can see I did that a lot to get him to come forward. That's really important. We don't want to be pulling our horses onto the float because that's showing resistance. I want him to get confident by knowing that when he steps forward, I'm going to reward him. And that was a big thing for him, and that's why he found that actually quite easy, is he's like, oh, you just want me to come forward, that's fine. And because he trusts me and I've done a little bit of groundwork with him, he understands that, and he's willing to do that, to walk forward for me, and then I can reward. So he did a really nice job of that. Notice I didn't lock him in, I don't need to. He was standing in there, I was moving around, I went in, backed him out a couple of times, came out without backing him out, and he still stood there. So he did a really nice job of that. I'm really happy with that, and if that was a training session, I'm really pleased with that result, and I would be happy that next time I went to load him, he would do that in half the time. So please remember, don't try and lock your horse in there once they're in there. Back them off a few times, and with a nervous horse, that gives them a whole lot more confidence to go back in the next time. You can see once he did it once and I backed him out straight away, he was more than happy to go in the second time. He's like, yeah, that's cool. You just asked me in there, that's fine. And he started to relax in there the second time. So that's when I take him out and reward him by letting him come out and eat. So I hope you enjoyed that. He did make that look easy, but he's a big horse and he is very scared. But he still has had a little bit of in-hand training, so he knows not to lean on my lead rope, and that's really important. Also, the other thing that made a difference for him is when I was standing here with him giving you guys the intro, he got a chance to relax with not having to work with the float. So stand by the float and just hang for 5 or 10 minutes before you even start doing your loading with a scared horse, and that just helps them calm down a whole lot more. So if you've got any questions, leave them on the Eliza Priddle Equestrian page. I will find a horse that's very stubborn, that just says, no, I'm not going on the float no matter what you do, and I'll do that one next. Again, the most important thing with that is that the come forward cue is pretty strong. I'm not going to make a horse come forward, I'm going to ask it to. And then once I've got that established, everything becomes so much easier. So I hope you enjoyed. See you at next time at Eliza Priddle Equestrian. Thanks, guys.